International Day to End Violence Against Sex Workers is a day set aside to help bring light to the violence that sex workers face because they have to remain hidden in our community and they often don't have people to talk to in their lives about what happened to them.
How do I keep myself safe on the stroll?
Curry Mace. Now they have like tasers. I always wanted one of those.
I would keep me a little switchblade on the side of me in case one of the Johns got out of line or whatever. I can put my blade out or whatever.
Hanging out in a group, especially dealing with commercial sex work, just lets you know that you have a community in which has your back if anything was to go down the wrong way.
We kind of did work in pairs. Me and a friend of mine, we worked together so that we could watch each other's back. Even if one was doing the work, one was standing outside the hotel room. Just basically me and her did everything together. So.
When we got in John's cars and stuff like that, we would get the tag numbers. We would text each other and make sure, are you finished? Where you at?
Every time stepping into a car or dealing with a customer, you're always at danger. Anything from date rapes to being robbed to, even, God forbid, a hate crime.
We'd give dates in the car and we'd take them to the spots that we knew. We would never go to spots that they knew. Spots that they knew, we didn't think they were safe because they was their spots. They could rape us there or was unknown spots. A lot of times, I would find myself in the same spot. Me and another girl would be looking at each other and say, okay, you're fine. But, me keeping myself safe was kind of complicated because you out there in the street life and you doing drugs and stuff like that. It's kind of hard to really keep yourself safe. I would just, hopefully I would just hope that it'd be a good day.
I think one of the most important parts about International Day to End Violence Against Sex Workers is helping, I think, everyone understand that sex workers, because of criminalization of sex workers don't have the same kind of relationship with police that other individuals enjoy. That means that they're always scared of getting arrested, they're always scared of harassment, just because of the way the system is set up. And so it's important to highlight on International Day Against Violence Against Sex Workers that sex workers might fear reporting to police because they're scared of the police asking them, well, what were you doing with this individual? Or how did you know this individual?
A lot of people feel like they can't go to the police because they feel like what we're doing is wrong. Which it is illegal, but especially as a trans woman, I think a lot of times we don't understand our rights and know that, despite what you're out there doing, you do have a right to go to the police department and to report anything.
Sex workers, drug users, kids in DC, people in general sometimes don't have the best experience with police officers.
So we just network amongst each other, and we was our own police. We did our own work. The police they never was good at doing a good job as keeping us safe, I think.
HIPS is there as a sounding board for people. HIPS gives out bad date sheets. HIPS offers self-defense opportunities. HIPS empowers people to make healthier and safer decisions and letting people know, we value them and they should value themselves.
So HIPS works throughout the year to help people both kind of understand different ways that they can protect themselves from violence, and then also, just trying to give people tips, helping people talk to each other. We have our bad date sheet and our hotline that really helps sex workers talk to other sex workers about ways to stay safe.
So the bad date sheet is a collection of reports. It's updated monthly or whenever we get a new report. And it's an opportunity for sex workers to report a time maybe they've gotten physically assaulted or robbed or just had a bad experience with a date.
The reason that we started the bad date sheet was we know that less than 10% of sex workers are comfortable reporting crimes against them to police. And so this is a way to encourage community reporting.
A lot of times sex workers don't want to report to the police, so HIPS acts as a middle person between the police and the sex workers, or between sex workers and other sex workers, and overall just helps keep the community safe.
Even sex workers who do report crimes against them, like a sexual assault, unfortunately, or a robbery, the officers will say that they can't move forward with the case because that person's not deemed a credible witness if they have a prostitution charge against them. And the unfortunate part about that is that means that A, the people perpetuating that violence aren't ever brought to justice, and the violence is never addressed, and the survivor also loses options that other victims of crime have. You might be a victim or a survivor of violence, but you're not a worthy survivor.
This day is important for me as a former sex worker to sit here and to still be living.
And the reason why I think that day is important is all sex workers can get together and network with each other.
For me, it's important because so many girls died and not died but was killed due to violence in DC over the last 2 to 3 years. So yeah, that's very important just to bring awareness internationally.
What would it take to end violence against sex workers?
Better cops, better judges, and better dates. Better cops that recognize that sex workers are citizens. Better judges that will have sympathy and hear both sides of the story. And better dates who are nice to sex workers.
I think that if we could address the relationships that sex workers have with law enforcement, because they're really a great ally in reporting acts of violence, then it would go a long way to helping everyone understand that sex workers are, sex workers are people and no one deserves a bad date and no one deserves violence against them.
Sex workers are part of your community. Sex workers, live in your same town. Sex workers go to your same grocery store. Sex workers are in the metro next to you. Sex workers are people you know and love.
So much is more about what people don't know and what they associate things with. It contributes to violence because what a person don't know, they're afraid of. Get together, learn more about stigma, decriminalization, just everyone playing a part, no matter how big or small.
Just wish all the violence would end against sex workers.
Be nice to sex workers.
It's important for the general public to understand and to support programs that either help address services for sex workers who have been victims of crime or violence, or who advocate against violence against sex workers, because there's a general feeling that because sex work in this country is illegal, that potentially violence against them is acceptable. And I don't want to live in a world that's believed.
I just want to say rest in peace to my dear friend Shay. She died last year on my birthday. Got killed due to violence. So. Never gonna break.